I have 8 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting of the Franklin Redevelopment Commission to order, and we'll start off with the roll call. Paul Buny. Here. Brian Deppie. Here. Drew Eggers. Not here. Bob Hukins here. Christy Ott. Here. And Richard Wirtz is just now walking through the door, I think. Close. Strike that. But we do have a quorum, and we'll go ahead and conduct the business of the Franklin Redevelopment Commission. And we'll start off with the April 16, 2019 minutes of our meeting from that date.
Move to approve.
Second. Is there any discussion? For those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And so those minutes are approved. Any old business to come before the Redevelopment Commission? Okay, there's no old business, so we'll move into new business. Looks like we've got some updates on some projects that have been going. Our quorum just got a little stronger just now. Start off with the resolution 2019-29, and that's on the Benjamin's Alley, the Davis Electric. Okay.
Mark is not here today, so I will do the best that I can with these. This is for the alley construction project. This was a change order during construction of the project, and we thought we could pay it out of a resolution from 18, but it was encumbered specifically to case construction only, and so this is for Davis Electric, and so we would need to pass a new resolution in order to be able to pay them.
Okay. So this was kind of a bit of a surprise when this whole thing was done, wasn't it, as far as this amount?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and this bill has been out there a little while too, hasn't it?
It has, yes. It's been outstanding for a couple months now because we thought we could pay it out of the resolution that was originally approved in 18, and then because it was encumbered to case construction only, we can't pay Davis out of it. So,
In order to get this approved today, we will need to have a read by title only and then a public hearing on this. So,
Make a motion to read resolution 2019-29 by title only.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Morning, Drew.
Morning.
Well, that's for the delay. Any discussion on this? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, same sign, so approved. We'll move this to a public hearing now. Is there any comments or questions from the public on this? This pretty much clears up all of any outstanding matters on this alley, doesn't it?
there is one later on your agenda for case construction that we were able to pay partially out of the resolution, but it was more than the resolution, so I don't know if you want to talk about that now. But I can do that. It's
Which resolution is that?
It's under letter N, Benjamin's Alley final invoice from Case Construction. So I mentioned that we had a resolution that was encumbered to them. So we got this invoice, and it was for, the total was for $16,969.34. And we only had $12,312 remaining in the resolution. So we paid a part of this invoice, but there's an additional $4,656.58 that remains on this invoice that we need a new resolution for.
So that's kind of business for next month, then, isn't it?
It would be for next month. We would need a resolution for next month to be able to pay out the rest of this invoice, and then that project will be 100% complete.
Okay. I'll tell you what we'll do right now. We'll go ahead and do the public hearing on what's before us on Davis Electric, and then before we move back into the regular agenda, we'll just go ahead and cover this case construction thing. No further comment from the public on the resolution related to Davis Electric. If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2019-29.
Richard, is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Okay, those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I do have one thing. I noticed on most of these, I've seen Keith's name needs to be changed to mine, but there's no substantive change in this law. The signing, the signature spots, Keith Fox's name needs to be changed to my name. No substantive changes.
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
You don't think that's not substantive?
Well, I mean, in terms of the actual content.
I understand. I couldn't resist.
Yeah.
We still have Keith on speed dial, I think, don't we?
Right.
We need,
He's probably next door.
okay. I think we've already voted out.
We have.
Okay, resolution approved. Going back to item N, which is the case construction, according to Krista's figures, calculations, we're going to need authorization for the attorney to prepare a resolution and docs for and advertising for a resolution next month for $4,056.58.
$4,656.58.
Does that include the $500 advertising fee?
We are not doing the $500 advertising.
All right, okay. So anyway, we need to authorize the attorney to, legal counsel to go ahead and prepare the documents for that.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's approved.
Bob, I have a question for
Yeah.
Krista. I don't know if it was last night at the Board of Works or City Council, but on the Benjamin's Alley, aren't there going to be more costs for RDC with the bin covers or enclosures?
The dumpster enclosure?
Dumpster closure.
We did talk about that at the Board of Works last night. I don't know if that's going to be a Board of Works expense or an RDC expense. We haven't decided on that yet. We don't have any costs or estimates of what that's going to be, so I think until we know that, we haven't really made that decision. I mean, that is done on your cash flow analysis with just a $0 amount for several months now, but I don't know that with the way our cash flow is that the RDC will be asked to pay for that.
You okay with that, Richard?
Yeah, we were talking here, this completes that project, and it's really a nice addition to our community in the walking area. And what they were talking about last night was just enhance that.
Yeah, there's a big dumpster, a small dumpster, we have our city trash coders back there, there's a lot going on, and so if we could consolidate that into one location in an enclosure, it would really make that alley look like it should with the money that we've invested in it already. So I do think it's a worthwhile project. I just don't know timing wise and with the way our cash flow is, if RDC is going to be asked to pay for it or Board of Works, how that's going to work out. Maybe it's a cost, maybe it's both, I don't know.
It was just information for the RDC.
Okay. All right, resolution 2019-30, which is the Eastview Upper Shelbyville Road Roundabout project, and we have a resolution for $75,404.
Yes, and I believe Mark presented this last month, and this is an invoice to NDOT for a cost share on that project, and this is another one where that resolution was encumbered specifically only to Crossroad Engineers, and so this amount could not be paid to NDOT, and so this invoice has been outstanding for a couple months now as well.
Is this an invoice to Crossroad?
It's to NDOT.
NDOT, okay.
Crystal, why was there insufficient funds in there?
There wasn't. It was because when we encumber a resolution, it can only be encumbered to one particular payee. So in this case, that resolution was encumbered to Crossroad Engineers because they still have some construction and inspection on that intersection. But this was for NDOT, and we couldn't encumber it to both. So the funds are still in that resolution that aren't going to be spent. We just can't pay them out of that. It's just kind of a housekeeping issue.
Okay. just has to do more with the payee as opposed to the amount then?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is what you said.
Yeah, the project's not increased by this amount, it's just
We're changing the payee then.
changing the,
Okay.
yes.
That's a good clarification of that.
Okay. Bob, then on our resolution 2019-30, it says, whereas the commissioners find there are insufficient funds. That's why I was asking when I read that.
That means we don't have that money already in our budget. And we don't have a budget. So as a result, you do it through an additional appropriation.
Yeah, I think every resolution says that, doesn't it, Rob?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, what we need here is is this a title-only situation as well? Okay, so we need a motion to approve this by title only.
So
Second.
We have a motion by Deputy and a second by Eggers. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Did you do your public hearing on that?
I thought about the carry on with that. Approved by title only.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Now we'll open it up for a public hearing. Don't everybody come at one time. Doesn't hear anybody's coming at this point. I think everybody understands what this is about. It's not an additional dollar amount, it's just name change, so. Move that I'll state that the public hearing is closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Deputy and then second by Wertz. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Now we've got a project change order. This, I think, is another one that we've heard before.
Yeah, Mark introduced this at the meeting last month. This is a change order. This is an additional amount for the King Street project. There were some underground storage tanks and some remediation cleanup that was done. I think there were 3 of them. 4. There were 4. And this is the total amount that is needed to pay for those on that project. On Jefferson Street, I'm sorry. Is it King? So this has been advertised and it's ready for,
This is the one that was done last year, right? The project, Jefferson Street. Okay.
probably, so relinquishment funds paid for all the rest of this, but we couldn't use relinquishment funds for the storage tanks. Is that correct, Mayor?
Okay. And again, Mark was in here last month, you might recall, and talked about this somewhat.
He did, yeah.
This is a title only thing. Okay, we're going through this. Need a motion to approve by title, to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Eggers, and a second by Paul Buning. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion approves. We'll open it up for a public hearing. Okay, and we'll close the public hearing, unless anybody has anything. Okay, now we need a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, and any discussion?
Just one question, I'm not opposed to it. I wondered, as a non-engineer, why it wasn't possible to simply fill in tanks, move out any contaminated soil without the wood be taken down. I wondered if that would cost us.
Yeah.
What was that question?
My question, and I'm certainly not an engineer, but I said to myself when 3 or 4 of the GSTs, couldn't they simply been filled in and soil around and taken out, wouldn't that have been cheaper?
Well, IDM oversaw the project,
Oh, okay.
and IDM wanted them taken out, and they did clean up the soil around it too, so,
You've answered, I didn't spoke.
yeah.
I answered your question.
And just to elaborate a little bit, I'm putting together, we've all heard about the EPA and IDM and everybody that's here talking about contamination that's not there. So that's one of the success stories that I'm putting together, about 6 things in the last year that's been cleaned up, and that's one of them, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thanks, Mayor. Those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution approved. Now we're going to move into a kind of a, I think we'll do the resolutions now, Shell building update.
Not really much of an update. We did, I know that their update that Ronabon gave at the last meeting was they were waiting on some color samples. We did get those. They were approved that same day. It's all the colors that were shown on the original drawing, rendering. And my understanding from both the mayor and I talked with Chris King is that they are trying to wrap up and get crews completed on the project across the street, which is their comic. And then as soon as the siding comes in, they'll move over to the shell building and you'll start to see some activity there.
Well, what are the chances we'll see some action before next month's meeting?
Well, I would hope they would be good. I know it's been a little frustrating to watch that continue to sit, so. I don't believe we have any new leads, Dana. I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that.
I submitted it for a couple days, but nothing that's moving forward at this time.
I think we're gonna have to wait on the building to get a little farther along before we get some, hopefully some more interest in that.
Right.
Okay, update on the Franklin Greenways Trail, Amphitheater Park, Shrewsbury, scope of services. I think there might be a change to our approach of this morning.
Yeah, so we've met with Shrewsbury and Crossroad Engineers on this, Mark and the mayor and I and Joanna and Tara, the whole city staff. We've got this contract before us for the design for that project. There's a bit of a timing issue. I think that Mark was wanting to handle this like we normally do, where the contract is actually through the Board of Works. It hasn't been to the Board of Works yet, and then the Redevelopment Commission would pay the fee out of the bond issue. But with the bond, which is next on your agenda, but that not being completed until August, I think we need to wait on this until we have that closer to being finalized before we can authorize them to start
In other words, we don't want to commit ourselves.
incurring
Yeah.
fees before we have everything.
Any questions or comments on that?
So we'll just simply see this in a month or two or three.
I think as we get farther along in the bond issue,
I just wanted to make sure you had it so that you could see the scope of services and kind of where we were headed with that, and just an idea, ballpark of what their contract cost was gonna be, those kinds of things, so.
For whatever it's worth, I will have some questions about scope of services. I don't, for example, bidding this in the traditional 4 or 5 stages, this is not the Taj Mahal. I don't see any reason that phase 1 and phase 2 couldn't be combined. When it's set out for being bid in 3 separate projects, which will do nothing but increase the costs, don't see any reason why it can't be bid as one project. And if you bid it 3 times, it's going to cause more delay. I didn't care for the scope of services the way it's arranged.
okay? Appreciate the heads up on that. We got that.
Yeah, I think it was just more designed so that if there were, and I'd have to talk to Mark, I've been involved in that, and maybe, looks like the mayor maybe knows more, but I think a lot of these were so that we could pick and choose.
I can answer that. I can tell you why they did that. It's because of the cost of the total project, because we may have to have multiple sources of funding. Like, for an example, we're talking about the pedestrian bridge. I don't know that we'll be able to do the pedestrian bridge, because that's $1 million. So that's why it was put in phases. But I know the first phase, I think, which is $100,000, you have to give the whole plan of what you're going to do to DNR before we can ever tear the buildings down. So I'm going to get with James' office here in a little bit and see if the Board of Works, if we can move forward with doing that first phase. So we can get it engineered, and what you tear down, they want to make sure that they're gaining for the water storage. So it's kind of amazing to me, you can't tear it down until you get it approved by DNR. So that's one reason the first phase of the $100,000 is there.
Well, given that, but I still have trouble bidding it 3 times, 3 different bidders, maybe 3 different contractors. Well, if that, if something goes wrong, the second contractor will blame the first, third one will blame the second.
Right, well, I understand that. But we're gonna try to live with what money we got, too, so.
You could always, this is a William Creek question, but did it with the right not to proceed on the bridge part of it?
And that may be where we go. So this was just to get the scope of services for the engineering firm, what they would be willing to do and how we ask them to do it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, discussion on that? We'll move to an update on the TIF, US 31 TIF.
You need a motion to table on that, Rob? Bob?
Oh, I don't know if we do, but I'm not opposed to receiving one.
Move to table it till future, to any future date.
Is there a second on that motion?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that's approved. And so it is formally tabled now. And now I'll turn to Rob on the bond issue matter here. I think that's next on the agenda.
We were originally scheduled for your public hearing today and approval of the lease financing documents for the bond. But we ran into a snag involving the lease, and so that's generated a new timetable that I'm going to be. The plan now would be for you to see this again on June 18th at your regular meeting. We still have a city council meeting to go to. I believe it was tabled last night. Yeah, so they would come back to city council and would be the next event, which would be on June 3rd. And then we would follow that timetable as much as possible. Well, closing of the bonds then would be projected to be mid-August.
Rob, Richard and I both had a concern about this last night. Is this gonna, I know time was kind of of the essence on this particular bond issue. Is this gonna affect us in any way, pushing it back to mid-August, as opposed to what we thought was gonna be mid-July?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but we don't have a choice. Okay. So we can't stay on the original time schedule.
Okay.
I have a question, it really directs to the mayor. With this backing up to this time frame, what impact does that have on the design from the state on the 31 project? Because I thought the city had to have that done to get the...
I don't think it's gonna affect that. I think it's more gonna affect the amphitheater, but I think the design on the state's moving pretty slow also at their part, so I don't think it will affect that. It's gonna affect more the amphitheater, and that's why I'm gonna talk to Jane here a little bit on us proceeding ahead with that first phase of Shrewsbury, so we can go ahead and get stuff to DNR. But as far as the state goes, they still have some stuff in their hands that they have told Mark they're proceeding with now, so. And I will tell you that Crossroads, they've been with us for several years and done millions of dollars worth of work for the city of Franklin. They are moving forward on their own dime, knowing that we're probably gonna get this done, so. And if they don't, it's their own risk. So once it happens, Crossroads will be ready. Here's the papers. So they're still working, doing their due diligence.
Okay, so then the question in middle of August is ample time to...
Well, that's whenever we can pay them. They're doing some work now, but they're doing work anticipating that they're gonna get paid when the bond's come due. So that's a good question, just like PJ, yours was a good question too, I appreciate that. Is that it?
Yeah, thank you for...
Okay, any questions, any other questions? I understand we don't have to take formal action on this at this point, so we'll move then to G, which is the redevelopment authority members. This relates to the bond issue as well.
Yeah, this is really informational, or anything.
There's two of them here.
Yeah. So just you, some of you will recall, because you were on this commission, I believe, but in 1994, the Redevelopment Authority was last used to land the Music Land project. And that was really the first substantial redevelopment commission, redevelopment authority project that the city undertook. And when that project terminated, the redevelopment authority stopped meeting. But on this new $10 million bond, US 31 amphitheater project, the authority needs to be resurrected to participate in the lease financing of the bond, for the bond. And so the mayor, that's a three-member board. The mayor has made his appointments, Bob Na'amin, Josh Bryan, and Les Taylor. Those are 3-year terms. They've not met yet. As you see on the timeline, they will be meeting sometime prior to your next meeting on June 18th. I'll be in contact with those folks and get them in the game. Anybody have any questions about that?
Okay. All right, and probably appropriate to thank Josh and Les for their willingness to serve for these next 3 years. And given that, we'll move on to H, presentation for overlapping taxing units.
So this is just a heads up for you. This is a new requirement through Indiana Code. It was passed in House Bill 1242. It requires redevelopment commissions to yearly before June 15th, between April 15th and June 15th, they're very specific, to do a presentation on the commission's budget, long-term plans for the allocation areas and the impact on each of the taxing units, and to do that at a redevelopment commission meeting. And then it's also suggested that a member of the redevelopment commission appear before the governing body, so the city council, in order to share that information. And then we would invite all of the taxing units to attend one of those presentations, either at the RDC or at the city council meeting. And so we'll need to be doing that. And I just wanted to let you know that Rob and I are working on that along with Jeff Peters and putting that together. And so we'll need to do that at the city council meeting before June 15th. Since we don't have a budget, we'll show, like we usually do in our annual report, the sources of revenue, and then uses of the revenue, and then we'll have the tax impact calculations from Jeff Peters, and so we'll go over all that information. So just a heads up that we'll be doing that. Stay in compliance with those regulations. Are there any questions on that?
Do we know who that RDC member representative will be at this point that presents?
No. Don't know. If anybody wants to volunteer, they're welcome to, or I know that obviously both Richard and Drew and Bob are already city council, so maybe you have that covered, you'll already be in attendance, but I'll leave that up to you guys. How you want to handle that?
Question, Krista. When that law was passed last year, and I glanced at it, it appeared to me there was a question of when the annual meeting had to be held, whether it ran on a fiscal year beginning July 1 to July 1, or whether it was a calendar year. Has that ever actually been resolved?
I don't know that it has. Do you know, Jane? I don't think that it has. I know we just have our reporting deadlines through the gateway that Jane takes care of for us, and that's already been completed for this year. But this presentation is just a new requirement.
Yeah, I know several taxing entities did it late last year. That's probably the schedule they think they're on. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
The Gateway report is due April 15th
Okay,
every year.
Yeah. The annual report, is due April 15th, and then this is just a recommendation. Because we have, the next item on your agenda is the determination of no excess TIF. This kind of presentation, I think, is what they're thinking complements that, so that when you're making that determination and we're sending that letter to all the taxing units, we do this presentation immediately before we send out that notification so that they know why we are determining that there's no excess TIF. So I think that annual report, this presentation, and then that determination of no excess TIF, all three of those play a part in all the information sharing.
So we'll have to actually have it in on the June 3rd city council meeting then.
Yes.
In order to get that in, so.
Yeah.
All right. More work.
More work.
But I think it's the intent of this is
It's just keep everyone better informed
in
of
front of everybody.
the projects and the RDC, and just make sure that the other taxing units, including the city council, understand what the RDC is working on.
Okay. Move on to I think that might relate a little bit.
Yeah, so that's what I just mentioned. We wanted to get this on your agenda and request a signature on this letter that we are going to determine that we have no excess TIF, and then we send this letter to all of the taxing entities. And what I was thinking we would do is, with this letter, we would also send them a notice that there's a presentation, and I can give them those dates. We would do the June 3rd city council meeting, and then our next RDC meeting, they can attend either one of those to hear that presentation when we send out this letter this year, so.
Okay, and there's a copy of that, there's a draft of this.
There is, yeah. It's the same one we use every year. We're just actually getting it to you before we send it out this year.
Okay, it's pulled up on the
Learning.
screen as well, so, okay. All right, so you need approval on this determination letter? Okay, so entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve and allow and authorize Bob to sign on behalf of the commission and to invite all the taxing entities to our meetings and presentation.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion approved, and they're going to get their invitation to join the party then, I guess.
I'm sure they'll be
Whenever that.
super excited.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Do we know what update that will be? Maybe you've already answered that.
June 3rd
Okay,
for city council,
so,
and then our next RDC meeting is June 18th.
looks like city council's going to get a little extended perhaps. Which is okay.
Okay, so next is the refund of $32,376.18. So if you recall, I don't know if it's been a year or two ago, the Redevelopment Commission gave a grant to the Franklin Development Corporation for $250,000 for the rebuild and redesign of that truck parking lot at McDonald's at the interchange. That was the original estimate. The bids came in way lower for once, and we've already returned, the FDC has returned $125,000 to the RDC last year, but the project is finished, and there's $32,376.18 remaining that has not been spent. And so the way that agreement is written is that those funds aren't going to be spent on that project, and so they are to be returned to you, the RDC, from the FDC. And so I just wanted to make you aware.
Have they been returned?
No, I have to write the check
Is
and
that what I'm checking?
get a signature, and then we'll deposit it into the RDC account. So,
I'll tell you what, for the money spent on that, that was probably one of the best projects that's been done in this city in quite a while. That was
yeah, I think the total cost was like $91,000, $92,000 total.
yeah.
And Case Construction did that project.
Yeah, I know I get accused of over tooting your horn sometimes, Mayor, but I think your negotiation of that really helped get that done. That was That's a good project for that east side, get rid of.
And we got rid of almost all the semis.
Almost.
I don't think they're pulling in across the street either, do you, as far as those other hotels?
Not very much, but occasionally we see one at the McDonald's parking
And they get pulled over too, by the
lot.
way.
If there's a police officer there, they do get it.
So, okay, thanks for the, it's always a good, we're getting money in return, so it's a great, good thing. Okay. Item K,
So this is Resolution 1924 that was approved earlier this year for the South Main Street right-of-way acquisition and then services. And there's still a few outstanding items, so I've worked with both Mark and Trent on this one. And they assure me that we can reduce the amount of that resolution. The official term from Sharon is to liquidate $60,000 from that resolution. We need a formal motion to do that so that that can be done through the State Board of Accounts, and that will show up on our appropriation report.
so we've appropriated $169,955, if I'm on the right resolution here. Okay,
Yes,
and so we're going to reduce that amount by
$60,000.
$60,000.
Yes. All of the right-of-way has been purchased that's needed for that project.
Okay, so we're going to reduce that then.
Yes. We're going to liquidate it.
So do we go in reverse order and do the public hearing before the notice to read by title only, since it's going in the other direction?
Yeah, I don't think a public hearing's required.
Okay, so we just need a motion for approval of the resolution to reduce the amount. As you stated, liquidate.
Liquidate, thank you.
Okay. That was supposed to be a joke, you know, we're gonna go backwards, so we're gonna do everything in reverse order.
Rob, does that get added to this resolution, the liquidate 60?
No, it's just gonna show up in the minutes.
Okay.
There's a motion made.
Is that gonna be also, will benefit us on the cash flow as
Yes.
well?
Yeah, so on your next month's financial report, I will reduce that resolution appropriation amount by $60,000, and so that'll free up some cash flow.
Okay. Okay, so still looking for a motion for approval of the
So
resolution?
moved.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Ron, I'm not approved, so I'm staying on that, as I did on the project previously. One of my clients owns this land.
Okay, very good.
So I just take out
Exactly, okay. So we did have one abstention, Brian Debbie on that. All right, we have another, looks like liquidation
Yeah.
or reduction. I'll let you explain that.
Again, this project is complete. Linville Way, Brookhaven Drive, and the Benjamin's Alley construction inspection, those are all complete, and there was a remainder on this amount. So we're just requesting permission to liquidate $7,500 from that resolution as well.
This pretty much just allows Jane's records to match up with what we spent, is that what that is?
It does, yeah.
Okay, all right. Any questions on this one? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion and resolution approved. So now we'll move on to where we're going to spend some money.
Right, so I tried to refund some money before we requested some additional money. So we did have taxes on properties for 237 West Monroe, 200 South Jackson Street, 231 South Jackson Street, and 159 West Monroe Street. So we have purchased all of those properties. We did just close on 180 South Jackson Street, which is the auction barn, and there were no taxes were handled at closing, so there were no taxes for that. But the total amount that has been paid is $19,881.06. And that's because taxes are paid a year in arrears, and so we won't have taxes on these properties going forward, but while these were privately owned, we had to pay these taxes for the portion of the year that they were privately held, and that was the total amount. So we need a resolution, doing this a little bit backwards. Taxes, as everybody knows, were due May 10th, and so these had to be paid in order to avoid the 10% penalty on those. And so these have been paid, but we need to pass a resolution actually appropriating those funds.
So you need a resolution for next month then?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're needing a resolution to authorize legal counsel to prepare the legal documents and resolution for payment of these taxes.
Yep.
Okay. Which I'll entertain.
Second.
And I have copies of those, if anybody wants to see them, you're welcome to. I didn't attach them to the agenda, just didn't really think anybody wanted to see that, but if you do, I have them.
Any other questions or comments? Those in favor of approval of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved, so we'll see this next month. And we did resolve the question about Paris as far as his vacating date.
It was October of 2018,
Okay,
so we are continuing to work with him to try to move him along.
Okay.
I'm supposed to have the keys to both Bass and Logan and the auction barn today, so.
And we're not allowed ability to do anything with those properties other than just maybe pick up around them?
Yeah, we can now that they're vacated, both those two, but Dan Harris is still working on getting things out of there, and Graham's obviously have till next summer.
All we can basically do is clean them up as far as mowing and cutting down some trees that are gonna go with our street department. Dan Paris, I may need some help with Dan's. I went and talked to him, and he wanted to stay until October. Told him absolutely not, we can't do that. And he needs to have his option, so I just want to get on the record and say that.
Okay.
So,
Right now, it's not hurting us anything, but
not quite at the moment, but since I've talked to him, I've been by there every day, and he's not out there doing anything, so.
What was the contract original date? Did he have like a year?
October of 2018.
And then they actually closed the deal, I think, was it June of last year? Is that it, Rob? You remember?
His tenant was supposed to vacate by June, I believe.
Of last year.
Yeah, and then he was supposed to vacate by October.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
do we, as a city, incur any liability by allowing him to?
That's a Rob question.
Yeah. I don't know if that falls outside of our coverage the city has, but it's knowingly allowing him to stay there beyond what we agreed to.
Well, that may be a discussion you need to have with Rob, and he send a letter with a drop dead date of some sort, which,
Let's talk about that for a second. And that's something I think within our jurisdiction to do, Rob, is to, I'm just concerned that if something, I don't know that he's provided us any kind of legal, any type of insurance binder that absolves the city of any liability there, but we have possession of the property.
well, I'll tell you what I've told Dan, is I'd like to start having our folks take down the fence August 1st. So I guess without saying it, I didn't give him any kind of date. I just said, we want to start cleaning this property up August the 1st. And I even told him that if he needed me to call the auctioneer for him, I could probably do that.
I agree with your concerns, Bob, in the sense, if someone gets hurt there, it won't matter whether we're at fault or not, we'll get sued. That's the other. So, fault's not the issue. We'll
We
get sued.
we do have insurance on all of those properties.
Well, I understand that, it's just one more thing we have to get with.
Yep.
I would say if we're sending him a letter, he should have coverage also, whatever the standards are for the city, adequate insurance to protect the city.
I wouldn't count on that insurance covering us.
you know. I think we're in agreement that maybe we ought to go on record of asking him, or reminding him of his obligation that he agreed to do, and that maybe we should give him a deadline. That's where I lean a little bit up on the legal counsel to advise, or, you know, the board here can also chime in now just to say what would be a reasonable expectation, you know, 30 days, maybe the end of June, to have everything pretty much out of there. I don't think that would be unreasonable, particularly since you've spoken with him.
Well, in one conversation I had with Dan, I think we owe it to the taxpayers to clean up the eyesore. And the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get, because nobody's going to be mowing, nobody's going to be taking care of it. And I told him by August the 1st, I want to start taking the fences down and go to work. So if you want to, before that, I'm good with that too. So
End of July, but thoughts, Rob?
Well, I don't think I would give him any more time. I think maybe you could assign me and the mayor to chat with him and come back in June with the update and recommendation. I mean, he's going rent-free right now on the taxpayer dime, and that wasn't part of our deal either, so I think it's not
Why don't we
kosher.
proceed with the understanding that there'll be a conversation with Dan prior to our next meeting. We'll have an update at our next redevelopment commission meeting on where we stand with this.
So Rob, do you want to set that meeting up with myself and you and Dan, and I can meet him? Okay, thank you.
It looks to me like if you want him out by August 1st, we need to be thinking somewhere in July, because our meeting won't be until the 3rd week of June.
I'm sorry to interject, but since you're talking about these properties right now, I was approached by the fire department, and they've asked if they could possibly use one of the buildings to train, and I've talked to the mayor about it. They're not gonna burn anything, they just would like to set up some mazes in one of the Baston Logan properties. And I did, like I said, I touched base with the mayor, and he approved of it, but I wanted to make sure I asked you guys, since you're the owners of the property.
Anybody have an issue with that? Question?
Is there property, Dan or something in there that they're going to have to order them maze?
Is there what?
Property, Dan Pierce or someone else?
Baston Logan has a big building that's down there that they'd like to just set up. Essentially, they do it just to train, like if they're in a smoky house and,
Is there any property in that building?
yeah. Oh, you mean any of Baston Logan's property?
It's empty. Well,
It's supposed to be gone.
it's supposed to be, yeah,
And we're working on that.
yeah, that's another.
I got this.
They've left a few things.
Baston Logan property, inside the buildings are empty. There's a pile of junk that we asked them yesterday to come pick up.
Okay, my concern was whether there was property.
Yeah, inside the building, it's empty. And they do this every once in a while. Sometimes they have to go, the fire department goes to another city to do the training. So I just thought that it was right here, that it probably makes sense to do it in that building that we're not going to use and eventually tear down anyway. So.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, I think that takes us through that part of the agenda. We'll move into other business, and the first item is the April 2019 financial report.
Okay, so we have the financial report for you. I've just updated what's actually been spent and received. So you can see on there the beginning cash balance, the money that we've received, estimated numbers are on there. We won't get that disbursement from the county for property taxes until June. So that's what we received last year for in June and December, and so we hope those to be a little bit higher this year, but that's what's been expended through April, the $6,774,000, which would leave us with our current cash balance of $5,126,000, but we do have $7.8 million in remaining appropriations. Those won't all be spent this year. If they were, then the balance would be negative, and so that's why we do the cash flow analysis to show what will actually be spent when. And none of those numbers are negative on the cash flow analysis of when projects will actually be paid for. Are there any questions? on the April report.
Any questions of, and that includes the cash flow?
Yeah, just real quickly on the cash flow, you have copies of those. There are some in the audience, but I did make some changes on this one for projects that were either approved or under consideration. And then I did put on here those 3 resolutions that we, the refunds. So you'll see those, the refunds from the McDonald's parking lot. They're highlighted in green at the bottom, so the negative 32,000, 60,000, and the 7,500. So those are listed on here as well. And then the resolutions that were approved today, 29, 30, and 31, are also listed on there. So, are there any questions on either of those?
Chris, on this financial report, the appropriations, what percentage of that number are you anticipating spending this year?
On the April report,
Yes.
so that's reflected in the cash flow analysis. So for 2019, the total is 8,848,000, and we've spent 6,774,000 through April. So we have an additional 2.1 million that we're showing we'll spend through the end of this year. And our cash balance is the 5.12, so that's why this number is a little misleading. The way that you read that is, you know, we're spending another 2.1 million, but we have 5.1 million in the bank.
We're not allowed to show what we have not collected.
Correct.
But
And and then there are also, so the cash flow shows, you know, refunds at the bottom. So the 158,000, the 294,000, the 128,000, those are refunds from NDOT for projects that were paid for last year or the year before that we're still waiting for refunds from the state on for reimbursement projects. And so that's why we do the cash flow, is to take all of those things into consideration to get a clearer picture of what our financial
if we go
state
back,
really is.
if we go back a couple months, that seemed to be a little tighter than it is today. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, but we were, you know, trying to be worst case scenario as conservative as possible. We don't want to overextend ourselves. And so as these projects get completed, you know, we tend to over budget just a little bit so that, you know, we're not having to come back through and ask for change orders if we can help it. And as they've been completed or we get refunds, the cash flow is going to look better, hopefully, every time. Now, we have had one project that came in overbid recently that's going to have to be rebid, the path project on West Jefferson Street. And so just everyone across the state, I think, is seeing that. I think if Mark were here, he would tell you, and the mayor could tell you that, you know, contractors are really busy right now, and they're just, you know, if they're going to do a project, they're going to make money on it, or they do something somewhere else. And so, you know, it's a good state of economy and a bad state of economy as some of these estimates are coming in a little higher because they're not as eager for the work.
They're busy.
They're very busy.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Okay, and you're the president of the REI of Indiana, REI, correct?
I am, yes. So we have a site tour. I just wanted to remind you, the site tour we have, Ronnie and I have been working on setting up. We're going to do a walking tour downtown. If anybody wants to join us for that, you're more than welcome to. We're meeting in this room at 10 a.m. We expect there to be maybe 25, 30 people from across the state. We have tours lined up at the Garment Factory, V2S Labs, the elevator, the pavilion. I'm probably missing some, Main and Madison. We're going to have lunch at RFD, and then we'll do a bus tour of both Tech Park and the Business Park. And then we'll take a stop out at the interchange where the hotels are being developed. And then we'll also give them a tour of the redevelopment area, the properties that we've purchased for the amphitheater, Young's Creek Amphitheater project area. So pretty full day. If anybody wants to join us, just let me know for either part of the day or lunch or whatever, just let me know. But I just wanted to let you know that we were doing that, so I'm kind of excited about that. We usually attend those every year in other cities, and so we get to do one here this year.
Well, you mentioned
Starts at 10.
10.
a couple projects are ongoing, I guess, is that you mentioned RFD is now opening, so
Yes.
they're getting close.
Yes, so they're having their official ribbon cutting. You will be getting an invitation today, May 28th at 2 p.m. They will be doing the official ribbon cutting. The mayor will be there to do that with the chamber. And they are having a soft opening to kind of get ready for that, starting today at 4 p.m. So they're open to the public, but they're not really announcing that. They're trying to kind of ease into full speed ahead. They want a few days to get ready for next week. So I'll send you that information in the email today. I was just waiting to hear back from Lisa with a few details, and she sent me those now, so you'll get an email from me today with that information.
Well, on a project that we've RDC funded, we're not overseeing it. I think the FDC is. Most people have seen what's going on with the Frechette property, so that work continues.
Yeah.
I have a question, Bob, about that. Going back through the original project, the drawing I saw was supposed to be 1.5 story facade on the front. It looks like it's only a 1 story. Did they change that?
So they brought that back in to us and also the FDC a couple times with the engineering that they did, and it's as tall as they could make it without, because of the cost, without the steel. So in order to make it any taller, it would have had to have all steel reinforcement, and the cost of that took it from $250,000 to $1.2 million with the steel.
I recall we saw that in this.
We saw it several times. Yeah, that's been back through here more times than I care to count.
I noticed that they've taken off some of the, at least vinyl. Or somebody making some effort to look at the?
They are the adjoining walls. So I know that they've been in contact with both property owners that have joined. The issue is who owns those walls. That's an issue with every downtown building. Nobody can necessarily tend to agree. Nobody wants to pay for it. And there isn't a clear delineation, when that building burnt down and that was removed, what was left. And some of those walls were a foot thick and some were 6 inches thick, and it just kind of depends on the location. And so I know that there has been conversations trying to get those cleaned up. They're less noticeable now, but it would be nice to continue working with them. And so we're pursuing those conversations to see if we can get those property owners to make some improvements.
Just wondering.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? Well, good luck on your site tour. I know that's a big deal with everybody coming to town. And,
Yeah.
and since you're the president of the organization, it's pretty well-known statewide organization the way I understand.
Yeah, it's through AIM, which used to be IACT, the Association of Cities and Towns, but I don't know what AIM stands for anymore. Accelerate Indiana Community, I don't know. It's a new act. Yeah, sorry. I don't know. IACT I can do. Anyway, so yeah, it's a formal organization through that statewide agency.
And our very own Chris Delinky is the president, right, this year. So congratulations. Hope you'll have a good day.
Thank you. Good weather.
Anything else for the group here today? Anything from the public? Anything going on? Sure you do.
Met last week with a delegation from Germany, from Baden-Württemberg, specifically that state. They were interested in learning more about central Indiana and really kind of honed in on the south side of Indianapolis. So it was really nice to be able to spend some time with them and tell them about Franklin. Showed them some of the options, the business parks, obviously showed the Shell building and things like that. So while they don't have a project, it's nice that they're coming in and doing some early due diligence, looking at it. We're seeing more and more interest like that. So this is the second one I've done with the German group.
Good deal. Rob, anything? I know you got a lot coming up this weekend anyway.
Well, we're gonna be, along with the Strawberries on the Square, we're gonna be showing the movie Grease, and so, Grease is the word.
Okay, well, Rosie, anything on the chamber front?
Our golf outing is our biggest fundraiser, and it's coming up in 2 weeks. We are nearly sold out of players and sponsors. So,
Pretty good deal on that, okay. All right,
Hey, Rosie also put together, we've been working on meeting with manufacturers, and every quarter we're gonna start meeting with them at different locations. There's Caterpillar,
Caterpillar's the first one.
and that is this week or
That's Thursday. Yeah.
this Thursday.
Yeah.
Wow,
Come
my
on.
schedule gets screwed up, so come Thursday, if any of you wanna go sit in on that, manufacturers roundtable with Caterpillar, you're more than welcome, so.
okay.
No agenda, just gonna talk about what we got going on in the city and, what their needs are and get to know our manufacturers that are already here a little bit better and see what they need to expand.
Les, anything from our man on the street?
No comments today, Bob, thank you.
Okay, very good, okay. There's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting, thank you.